Another edition of the Trey Wallace podcast, powered by outgeek.com. Happy to have my boy, SEC Mike. You all know him, Michael Braden, covering the SEC like a madman. What's up, my bud?
And hey, Trey, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure. And man, there's nothing finer than talking SEC football in early May. So I'm here for you, buddy.
I mean, what else the hell are we going to talk about? We could talk baseball. We got the SEC tournament that's coming up in Hoover, in a few weeks. That's always fun. Especially since they decided to add 16 teams to the tournament now, and there's gonna be some single elimination. But I promise you, weather will get in the way for certain things. Like whatever, it's going to be a lot of fun, and I think that where we are right now in college athletics, this is where I want to get your opinion. Like we're all sitting around waiting for this damn house settlement and stuff to be approved, and which I think it will be in the next 5 to 6 days. And the ever-changing landscape of college athletics is something that I think fans are having a difficult time. Maybe is not the right word or phrase to use, but we've been dealing with NIL for 5 years now. I remember it like it's yesterday, where Nick Saban's taking a shot at Jimbo at I think it was like a Special Olympics type event in Birmingham or something, and then Jimbo calls his press conference and pretty much tells the SID to back off. I'm about to go off on Saban, and sliced bread is brought up. Like, is it fascinating to you how far we've come in 5 years? And now we're about to see schools with their letterhead on checks that are going to be given out to players every single week. Like, it just feels like it moved too fast, but at the same time, it's like, holy shit, like this is going on.
Yeah, it almost feels like a different sport, doesn't it? But I think this is what happens when you, for 100 years, kick the can down the road. And then the next thing you know, the payment's due, and it's due now. You know what I mean? So I think that's where we're at. And I still think it's comical. And I'm not calling out any of the leaders, because I think the vast majority, like Greg Sankey, I literally don't know if there's someone better to be put in that position to lead the SEC. But when I hear government and Congress and this, that, and the other, buddy, I mean, you should have given that up years ago. And the whole thing, this is overly simplistic, but they're trying to cram an amateur model into professional sports.
Yes.
And you can blame the players all you want, but I don't know. This is like cemented in my head, Trey. When I was in middle school, I was obsessed with the NCAA tournament, like most of us were at that age.
Yeah.
And again, this was 20 plus years ago. Yep. And I found out they were getting paid $1 billion annually to televise that. So that was, I mean, I don't know what they make now, but it's probably 2-3 times that or whatever. But
absolutely.
Point being, I mean, you can't blame the players for when they bastardized all this and made it professional sports 20, 30 years ago. It was going to filter down to the players at some point, and they're just they've been drug into it, kicking and screaming, and this is the results of it.
Well, the reality of the situation is, if you're a college football or college sports fan, I don't care what sport it is, did we forget that these star players have been getting paid for 30 to 40 years? Like, it's just a different way they're getting paid. They're not getting the $500 handshakes after a game, or the duffel bag dropped off at the back of the house, or meeting in a hotel parking lot at 9:30 at night. Like, it's just out in the open now. And if you think your program, and if you're a top tier program, was not in some form or fashion paying a player, man, I've got oceanfront property in Kentucky that I would love to sell you.
I just think the biggest problem, and this is uniform, everybody says it, but I don't know a solution to it either, unless we collectively bargain, which would take us out of amateurism.
Yeah,
I think we got to do away with the transfer portal, certainly in its current form, to where multiple windows, players can leave whenever. I'm fine with one window, but right. I've even heard some suggestions that maybe they'll limit, like, insert any team, Alabama, Auburn, Tennessee. You can only take X amount of transfers per. I mean, it may come to that, and I think they need to do something like that because this twice a year free agency, I think that is the biggest issue right now in the sport.
I think the spring is the conundrum, brother, is where we are. You know, I've spoken to so many ADs and coaches and whatnot. And it's like, okay, you get through the winter portal period. You think you got a roster put together. You think your payroll's good. All of a sudden, 3 months later, 3.5 months later, you know, you don't know what the hell your roster is going to look like coming out of spring practice. And look, like, tongue in cheek, like if you're a starter on the team, you know, and a high quality backup, like sure, like I think the coaches understand. But then you know, there's things that happen. I mean, look at the damn Nico situation. It's like what? But what a lot of fans don't understand is that had been brewing for 6-7 months beforehand. Like, so if you read the tea leaves, you'd understand that he was pissed off and agitated, and the family was too involved in that situation. I just said, look, when the president of the United States is up talking about NIL and trying to partner with Nick Saban, God bless Nick Saban for what he did for the sport, but my man, like, I don't want to hear the president talking about college athletics. I'm sorry, I just don't. Like, you got bigger shit to worry about in this world, and not 18 to 22-year-old young men or women, you know, trying to profit off their name, image, and likeness. That it's not a political take. I'm just being realistic. Like,
right. Yeah, that's just the final wrench in this whole thing we didn't really need, as it's on the 1-inch line. You know what?
well, yeah, that's exactly right, and that's exactly right. And you know the whole wild part about this NIL thing over the last 5 years is I covered a case and a firing at a university for Jeremy Pruitt, and I spent a lot of time working on that story. And now all of a sudden it's like, damn, I mean, what I spent all that time for 5 years later, I mean, everything's legal. Like, they're not driving Dodge Chargers anymore or Challengers. They're driving Lamborghinis and Mercedes. You know, like we don't have an assistant coach in the Tennessee office handing out manila envelopes full of $100 bills. You know, these kids are literally just getting paid by the collect. So what I'm getting at is that if I'm Jeremy Pruitt, I'd be sitting here like, damn, like 7 months after I get fired, we're starting to pay these players now for shit that I got in trouble with for, you know, giving a mother, you know, a couple grand in a bag outside. Like,
he pulled a Saban a year too early. I mean, he should have just waited it, you know?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's why all of it, I think fans have kind of looked at it too, and they're like, all right, how much do I have to give? You know, like, what else are they going to try to get? You're going to try to raise ticket prices on me? Okay, that's fine. Like, I get it, the economy, but you're adding talent fees. You're adding, you know, where do the donations go, Mike? Do they go to the building the new stadium, or do they go to buying the 5-star quarterback? Like, I get where fans are kind of tuned out in a way. Like this house settlement shit, I don't know if you agree with me or not. Fans don't care. Like, they're over it. They've been hearing house for 2 years, 3 years now. And we're waiting for a judge in California, Claudia Wilkins, to say, okay, we approve it. Schools can start paying. You have a salary cap now. And all these NIL deals that were done, Mike, if they're over $600, guess what? They got to go through a clearinghouse. Man, you don't think they're going to find ways to get around this? Like, you know what's going to happen? We're going to go back to the old days. If a player's getting paid by a school, but you need that extra couple $100,000, where do you think that's going to come from? It'll come from the boosters. Like, it's just, that's where it gets a little wild to me, Mike.
Yeah, we're going right back to Jeremy Pruitt. You know, we're going to have to put the money in the Chick-fil-A bag. So
yeah, I know.
That's seemingly where we're headed. But man, it's difficult to keep up with this, and that's, you know, I try to do it on the daily, and I still can't keep up with it. You know, so I can't imagine how your typical fan is wrapping his head around all this stuff.
Right, I know, and especially when you see players leaving and going, and the salaries that they're reportedly getting, with some of these numbers that are put out there are just absolutely no, that it's not true. Like some of these numbers, like Texas is not spending $40 million on a roster next year. Okay. They might be around the 30 range, but they're not spending 40. I think that some of the stuff gets a little bit overblown, but at the same time, we look at it and hey, this is what college sports is now.
I heard a hot rumor for you, Trey, and you can
okay, I'm ready.
Destroy this if you'd like. Again, I don't know if it's true, but
okay, here's a disclaimer. Yeah,
I heard it from a pretty good source that Texas may not have the highest price roster in the conference this year.
I would say that's a little bit true.
And the one is apparently that is maybe higher would be LSU.
LSU has, let me tell you something. LSU, and you know this, you talk to folks. LSU is spending money in basketball and they spending some money in football. It's like they want to win right now. They're trying to pull an Ohio State. Or, okay, let's put it together. Whatever we got to do, we need a national championship. And that kind of leads into a great way I was going with this. I'm glad you brought up LSU. For Brian Kelly, like, buddy, you got to make the playoffs this year. Like this is a turning point for that program. A, you're spending a lot of money. Okay. B, you brought in a staff that you think is suitable to coach up for a national championship or a playoff run. I'm not going to say national championship, for a playoff run, be in contention. You've got outside donors that are coming in. You've got support from everybody. So now it's time to put up or shut up with Brian Kelly. I'm curious on your thoughts on where LSU stands with what they have returning, what they have at quarterback. Like, what is the line in the sand when it comes to wins where we're not having a conversation if LSU potentially is going to change coaches after next season?
I don't think I've talked to an LSU fan that will accept anything less than making the college football playoff this year. And yes. I mean, if they don't make it, I mean, I think they're all aboard firing him. Now, paying the buyouts is another deal, but there are ways around buyouts. We all know, shout out Jeremy Pruitt. There are ways you can get around these buyouts. So, I mean, I've even heard legitimate media people say that if he doesn't make the playoff this year, they could see him getting fired. So, I think that is the bare minimum for LSU for what they're allegedly spending, what they got coming back. They got the quarterback, they got all the pieces. And we came down here not only to be part of the family, but to win championships, I was told by Brian Kelly. And it has been proven many coaches over that this program is capable of winning the national championship regardless of who the coach is.
Yes.
You would think bringing in a coach with a better resume the day you hired him than any coach you've had, including Nick Saban. I'm not saying Brian Kelly's better than Saban, but I'm saying when he got to LSU, his resume was far superior than Saban's. If he can't get it done, then he's the problem.
Especially like you kind of hit it with the talent that they have, and especially with a veteran quarterback in that system. Like this is it. Like it's like what I talked about. And I think I've had this conversation with you, like in Jimbo's final season. My biggest thing for Texas A&M was, okay, if they're not in playoff conversation the first week of November, Texas A&M got to make a cut. They got to change things up because this isn't working. And obviously we saw it played out. We saw that last season. A&M moves on, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if I feel like I'm teetering right there with LSU. Like if come November 1st and they're sitting at 25th in the country or whatever, and they're not in that conversation, there's going to have to be some honest discussions with folks in Baton Rouge about what the future looks like, because the market for college coaches only gets crazier by the day, right?
Trey, you say November. I'm saying mid-September because they play Clemson week 1 at Clemson.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know Clemson like I do the other SEC teams, but I also heard that Todd McShay, his early projections, got 6 Clemson players in the first round of the upcoming NFL draft. Again, take Who knows what the hell that's worth? But I thought that was interesting. And then they got Florida at home, third week of the season. If they lose both those games, which I'm not saying they will, but if they do, that's feasible to me. God, they may run his ass out of town by mid-September.
He, he won't he won't make it to Thanksgiving. He'll be gone. And then and that also begs the other question is, when we're looking at the conference as a whole, what other coaches are we going to be talking about? Like, if you had to guess, what coaches are we talking about end of September, October, right there, beginning of November, where, okay, the schools are going to have to start preparing. And by the way, when these schools make a decision on they're going to be moving on from a coach, you're going to start seeing this a lot earlier. Like, I know there's been some examples, but I'm talking mid-October, early November, just to get a jump on what it would be like. I mean, I got a couple of schools in my mind, but I'm curious on your thoughts. Like, middle of next season, who are we talking about potentially is, okay, we got to go find somebody else to lead the program?
Well, one guy, Trey, that, it's a blessing and a curse, because I think they have won the offseason in the Southeastern Conference, and that's the Oklahoma Sooners and Brent Venables. Yep. So it's a blessing because we got a roster now that can compete, right? Yep. But it's a curse because now all of a sudden there are some people that has this as a borderline playoff team, myself included. I don't think they'll make the playoff, but I think they could win 9 games. I mean, I think they're that good.
Yep.
Now, you can't say that on one hand, and then if they go 5-7, 6-6, say, well, that was a hell of a coaching job. You know what I mean? Like, his ass is gone if they don't improve on the football field, as he should be. I mean, this is his 4th year, and he's had 2 6-7 seasons in his first 2. Right. Or should be first 3. So that is not the standard. He is right there, Brent Venables. I think he's got to be on a super hot seat. And then the other one is Hugh Freeze. Come on. I don't understand this, where he gets this wild reputation as being, one of the best coaches in the conference. He's never been that. I mean, no. It's like people forget his last year at Ole Miss, they only won 5 games. And this is before the sex scandal. You know what I mean? So it was already falling to pieces there. He had one good year at Liberty, if you really look at it. And now he's back. And last year was a huge step back. And, they have more talent than they've ever had. Will it translate to the field? I mean, it better. Otherwise, I think Hugh Freeze will be in serious trouble. And the schedule, it's never easy at Auburn. But this is one of those years, Trey, where you get Georgia and you get Alabama at home. Those are the only years that Auburn ever does anything. So if they don't get it done now, I certainly don't think they're going to get it done 2 years from now. That's the perfect opportunity to switch coaches and build up for a year 2 run with John Summerall.
Well, I agree with you on that part. And also Auburn, that's a good one. Auburn boosters made it clear in the offseason, like, hey, look, we're going to give you the NIL. We're going to let you go out and get the players. Now you got to win. You got to see, there's got to be a return on investment now at Auburn. Like, the feel good shit, all that type of stuff. Like, no, I'm done. I'm done with it. Like, this is Auburn. Okay. And by the way, you're dealing with a team about 2 hours north of you in Tuscaloosa that's still dealing with the after effects of Nick Saban gone, with Kalen DeBoer. Is the starting quarterback going to be Ty Simpson, this season, which feels that way with Ryan Grubb at OC. Like, this is it. Like, you have an opportunity. I'm not saying you can overtake Alabama, but I'm saying you're never going to find a time in the last 2 decades where Alabama is sitting right here and Auburn's like right here where you're close. Like, you can grab them. And right. I think if you don't take advantage of Alabama right now, either they're going to figure it out this season with DeBoer or next season, whatever. Or Alabama's going to go out and say, okay, we fumbled this first hire after Saban. Now we're going to go spend $14, $15 million. We're going to get the best damn coach in America, and he's going to come in. He's going to turn the program around for good. Right. That's where that could go.
Oh, yeah. No, I say it all the time, Trey. The best thing Hugh Freeze is doing is stocking the roster for the next coach. Of course, with the portal, all those guys could be gone in a heartbeat, but not if you fire him in the middle of the year and get him replaced before the portal opens.
what do you think about Mark Stoops at Kentucky? Because I kind of
I,
feel like that relationship is just it's barely hanging on. I mean, I could use some other words. I feel like
I got a good one for you, Trey. I mean, that
Stoops was 1 foot out the door, to A&M. Like the guy was probably on the way to the airport to College Station and got the call and says, "Hey man, you need to turn around and go back to the facility." So
yeah,
shit.
you just nailed it. I think he's been phoning it in since that A&M debacle. And to define the relationship, I call it a Mexican standoff because it's
Yes.
the AD does not want to pay a cent for any coach's buyout. Hell, he wouldn't pay Calipari's buyout. Calipari took care of that for him, and
Yes.
he's on record. I'm not paying Stoops any buyout. And for those that don't know, Mark Stoops for some reason has got like a $40 million buyout,
Yeah. What the?
and it, they even asked him, Trey, at the I think it was the last game of the year or signing day or something like that. But the media asked him, "Hey, would you ever consider retiring, walking away from that money?" He just started laughing. He said, "No, no, that's not entered the thought process." So, it's a true Mexican standoff up there where the, apathetic, I think, is not even a strong enough word for what the Kentucky fan base is feeling right now.
Yeah.
Which I don't blame them because they have experienced a lot of highs in recent seasons, but not lately. And,
No.
and Mitch Barnhart, the AD, has already said, just one bad year. You just went 4-8. But what he forgets to mention is the 2 years prior, they were preseason top 25. They didn't end up ranked either season. So
Shit the bed.
this is three consecutive down seasons. And will he survive a fourth? He shouldn't. But
Right.
I think the only thing saving him potentially is that massive buyout.
Do we finally get like a coaching trade in college football? Like, I mean, I don't think Kentucky fans want Kirk Ferentz from Iowa, but maybe they can work something out, with another school. I have no idea, but I do agree with you in the sense that the Mark Stoops thing just kind of feels over. I mean, that's not a team that's going to go out and win 9 games, and that's no shot to Kentucky fans because I think Kentucky fans watching this will agree, and that sentiment that, hey man, what's Mark Pope doing? Damn, look at that basketball roster. That's an $18 million roster, man. Let's go to the Final Four. Like
Right.
we just gonna start basketball's time earlier this year. Like let's just play some games in September, and have some. But the other one is in my opinion, it's Sam Pittman. It's and by God, I love Sam Pittman. I do. I love the man, Sam Pittman. At the end of the day, if Arkansas, which I think Arkansas is I know they have a talented group with them this season, but can you put it all together in a very, very tough SEC? And can you do enough to please the Tyson chicken folks, and make sure that, you're at least in a conversation, middle of the pack in the SEC, halfway in the season's over. I think that's one of those jobs where, it can be enticing to somebody. But at the same time, Mike, it's like, okay, like, do we pull the trigger on something like this if he goes, 6-6, something like that, 7? I did. I don't know what Arkansas would want to do in Hunter Yurachek in that situation because how long can you just keep rolling along with this train?
Yeah. Well, I think the silver lining for the Razorbacks is Taylor Green because I
Oh
think his
yes,
ceiling is massive. So, if he takes a huge step forward, a little bit more consistent, I think there's a shot the Razorbacks are a lot more feisty of a team. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean 7-5? Does that mean 8-4? Possibly 9-3? I mean, that shouldn't be your ceiling, but I agree with everything you said. I mean, that's what it feels like the ceiling possibly is an 8-4 type team.
and I'm looking at it right now. Like you're right. Like I mean, I could see 8-4, especially if Talon is, and he's got a few weapons too. So like that gives me some optimism for Arkansas's offense, especially with their OC.
Mm-hmm.
To be out there and maybe change some minds next season. Is that a good way to put it?
Yeah, and I mean, there's plenty of opportunities too. Notre Dame at home, Texas A&M. You're leaving Jerry World. You're getting that game at home. So there are opportunities on the schedule to, again, would it be stunning? I don't know how good Notre Dame's going to be. If Arkansas beat Notre Dame, I don't think that would stun me.
Yes.
A&M, again, would that stun me? Not really. I would favor both those teams to beat Arkansas, but I favored Tennessee to beat Arkansas last year, and it didn't happen. You know what I mean? So I think there's a chance again because of Taylor Green is so good, and I love the coordinator combo, Bobby Petrino, Travis Williams. I think that's one of the best coordinator combos in the conference. But the problem is you could have the best offensive coordinator, the best defensive coordinator. If you got a number 15, number 14, number 13 type roster, overall talent, you're not going to win many games in this league.
What do you think about Billy Napier right now going on with Florida? Because I look at, and there's a caveat to the upcoming season. We've seen the video of DJ Lagway throwing, inside that indoor facility. Interested to see when he could throw the ball 40 yards, 50 yards. But if we get to a point like I think Billy Napier, they have got some talent on that roster. And I feel like, and this has been my opinion, like when we were talking about the Nico thing, I think I brought this up to you. I said, I think DJ Lagway showed me more in 6 games last year than Nico did in 12 games. And so, like, if you get 100% DJ Lagway, this is a Florida squad that can, I don't know if shock is the right word because of the talent that they have, but at the same time, I do think that they can make some waves next season. The narrative changed on Billy Napier really quick last season. Like when we were at the end of September, bro, I remember having conversations with you and other people like, okay, who you think's gonna be the Florida coach, next season? And they changed the narrative and you get people excited about DJ and the conversation kind of changed. Now it's like, all right, you got to go put this together. And your quarterback damn well better be healthy, or this is not going to. Harrison Bailey is not winning you 8 games next season for the Florida Gators. So pray to God DJ's good.
Well, on a side note, Trey, isn't it funny how much Lane Kiffin loves Ole Miss? The second his Rebels lost to the Florida Gators, I'm sure that's totally unrelated.
No shit, right?
I mean, every opportunity. I love Ole Miss, Oxford. This is whole blah blah blah. Yeah,
I do love Gainesville, by the way.
Yeah, come on. You ain't full of me whiffing. But yeah, I still don't have much confidence in Billy Napier. I'll be honest with you. I think DJ Lagway is the best quarterback in the conference next year. And one thing that I love about him, and people always they look at his stat line. I guess they don't actually watch the games; they just look at the stats, and they say, "How the hell can you say something like that with his stat line?" But one thing that no stat can measure, he seems to elevate the entire, not only the offense, but the rest of the damn team, but obviously the offense more than anything. He just takes it to another level when he's in there. So I love what he brings to the Florida Gators, but how soon we forget. Even I was recently watching the Florida-Tennessee game from last year where Billy Napier lines up to go for 2.
Yes.
And then calls timeout. And then he's like, all right, yeah, let's kick extra point. Let's go overtime. Let's lose in overtime. Like, that's not a Florida coach. A Florida coach doesn't play for overtime on the road, hostile Neyland Stadium when you just took the crowd right out of the game. I mean, he's gutless compared to the likes of, Urban Meyer, who I think is a terrible person, and Steve Spurrier, who's an all-time great. Billy Napier is nowhere in their class. And I think I'm really high on Florida. I think they can win 9 games this year, but I think Billy Napier will cost them 1 or 2.
You look at the schedule. You're going to play South Florida at home, LIU. Okay. Well done.
Long Island.
Right.
I didn't know that was a school until I saw it on the schedule.
Like, what the hell are we talking about? LIU? Like, what is LIU? Like, okay. Yeah. And then, you're going to play Miami in Miami, which, okay, Gator fans will travel. Brother, then you get Texas at home. Arts goes to Gainesville. That'll be fun. You got to go to A&M after that. Okay, interesting.
Both those teams killed you last year, by the way.
Right. And you get Mississippi State at home. You play Georgia, obviously, in Jacksonville. You play at Kentucky. And then, Lane can talk to some folks from Florida when the Gators travel to Oxford. And then the Tennessee game is back in, November 22nd this year to wrap it up. And they have Florida. So, sure, I could see those amount of wins that you're talking about. But also at the same time, that's a number of tough games. I mean, you're playing Texas, Texas A&M, Miami. I don't know what the hell Carson Beck's going to look like this year for Miami. I would swing that towards Florida. Um, but at the same time, yeah, I don't disagree. I think we're at a point right now where Billy's kind of in that you better prove it mode as well, heading into the season, and that's what's the fascinating part about it all is this all hinges on the shoulder of DJ Lagway.
Yeah.
And wouldn't it be fascinating to see Harrison Bailey take some snaps as a starting quarterback?
I'd love to see him start against Tennessee.
Oh shit! Can you? He has been a world traveler, and God bless him for what he's doing and all that type of stuff. But when we look at it and break it down, man, that's a crazy story. What is? Hey, just real quick on the Tennessee Volunteers and Josh Heupel, and I there's been conversations about the portal period and whatnot, them not going out and getting receivers and upstarting that offense a little bit more, getting some help for Joey Aguilar, who's coming in now, or Merklinger, whoever's going to be the starter. It won't be McIntyre. The kid needs to put on 25 pounds and learn the offense. No offense, it's just how it is. But are the concerns of Tennessee folks, are they valid? Or is this something where you watched 5 wide receivers into the transfer portal during the winter period, you haven't done much to replace it? It's like, what are you doing with the offense? And then you hear the Nico side of it where, we didn't like the philosophy and whatnot and what you were doing. Like, Tennessee fans got something to worry about when it comes to Heupel this upcoming season? Or is this, one of those years where, shit, man, I mean, that's a stupid way to put it because they're always going to be worried. But I'm saying, is that a 9-win football team?
Well, I'm trying to figure out what you're talking about with this concern, Trey, because I'm out here saying Tennessee's in for a down year, and they're all calling me an idiot. I had one of them today tell me they're better than Alabama this year. I mean, I think the delusion has never been higher on old Rocky Top, and they love Heupel. They should. I think Heupel is. I don't even think it's questionable that he's a top 10 coach in the country, not SEC, the country. I think he's that good. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I did you ask me if they could win 9 games? If they win 9 games,
I said 9.
He's coach of the year, and I mean, this is the greatest coaching job he's done yet.
Yes.
With the offensive line's totally blown up, one returning starter, and the one starter is Lance Hurd, who all nation hated last year because he was so awful. The receiving corps is totally new. Obviously, quarterback position is blown up, and star tight end is sidelined, may not be ready to go by the start of the season. And oh, by the way, they lost the SEC Offensive Player of the Year. Where are they finding offense, Trey? And I get it. Heupel's a mad genius out there, but you could say that. At the same time, you could say, well, hell, his offense is getting worse the last 2 years in the SEC. I just call it like it is. And that doesn't mean he's totally been solved or anything.
No.
I think if there is a silver lining, and I know I was just totally negative on Tennessee, if there is a silver lining, and this is not revisionist history, this is not me picking apart Nico and Joe Milton, but Trey, I think you would admit that any Tennessee person who's watched Tennessee the last 2 years would admit Joe Milton and Nico struggled so much to hit that deep ball. Ugh. That is the best part of Joey Aguilar's game.
Yes.
So perhaps that will return something to the offense that has been missing in the last 2 years that has caused Heupel's offense, the numbers to go down the last couple of years. But that is just one piece of the puzzle. But it's a big piece because of what it does stretching the field and makes the defense respect that part of the offense. If they can connect on that, I think it kind of opens a lot of things. But no, I don't think there's any shot in hell Tennessee can win 9 games this year.
I think Tennessee fans, by their own accord, a little bit delusional. I mean that in a nice way. But you're expecting things out of a team that lost. I mean, look at your defense. Like, okay, you might be short up on one side in the secondary. Okay, what you doing along the defensive line? Like that's my biggest thing too. It's like it's not all offense, mm-hmm. and you lost Dylan Sampson, Okay, you've lost an offensive line. You got. By the way, you're going to have to play David Sanders in the first damn game because you're paying him a shitload of money, and you're not going to do the same thing like you did with Nico, where you sit the 5-star on the sideline for a year to let him learn. So David Sanders has got to hop in there. I'm just saying, like, sorry, like you can call it a down year, you can call it a bad year. I don't care. You win 8 games with this roster, and by the like, God bless them. Joe Milton and Nico didn't prove shit to me over the last 2 years. They didn't. They were average quarterbacks. Average quarterbacks. Nico, it is what it is. He just wasn't good last year. Like, I'm sorry, there was a couple of passes. Like, he hit Chris Brazil in the back of the end zone. I was standing right there against Alabama. Okay, good pass. Maybe I could name 3 or 4 more. That's it. The reason why Tennessee went to the playoffs last year was because of their defensive line, because they finally had some FU guys along the defensive line. Their secondary was pretty damn stout. Like, they had a good defense, and they had a running back. They had the SEC's best running back, along with an offensive line that somehow put it together when it was pieced together from the start. That's why you were in it. And then when you go up against a team like Ohio State, whose backs were against the wall, and, you know, the Columbus Stadium, Ohio Stadium was filled with 25,000 Tennessee fans. Ohio State comes out and says, F you, we're about to beat the shit out of you. Sorry. Like, we're not, you're not. What I'm getting at is that over expectations for that team, man, it's just a lot. And it's like, if you clearly look at the roster, Joey Aguilar, sure, he did some great. I followed App State football because they're in the same conference as my South Alabama Jaguars, where I went to school. So, like, I've watched a lot of Joey Aguilar. You know, it's not because I'm seeking out App State football games like crazy, which, by the way, I love App State. I'm just saying in general. Like, I know what Joey Aguilar can do, but he's got to do it in this system. And that's completely different than a quarterback going into a place where he can pick up the offense in 3 months and be good to go. What I'm saying is, Tennessee fans, chill out. It won't be the end of the world, you know, when you lose a couple games in the first 2 months, maybe a little bit more than that, and then you're sitting with an 8-4 record at the end of the year. That's all.
I would agree with that. I mean, 8-4 is kind of my expectation. 7-5,
and that would be fine. Like that, you got to take what you can get with this, and then you have to regroup. So we'll see what happens with Tennessee. Kind of wrapping things up, man. When you look at the conference as a whole, we saw Ole Miss last year. I hate to use the word I put it. You know, the dream team kind of shit. You know,
last dance.
Yeah, the last dance, the dream team, putting it all together, blah, blah, blah. Like, by the way, I love Austin Simmons at quarterback. Like, I think that kid's got a lot of talent. But if we're sitting here right now talking about the conference, like, is it Georgia, Texas, Ole Miss? Is that how we go with this thing? Because to me, we've seen tidbits of Arch Manning. We think he's going to be good. We think he is. We've seen stuff against some opponent, whatever. But Arch has still got to go out there and prove it. You know, so what is your tier right now in your opinion of, as we sit here in May coming out of spring practice, and it's hard to do, whatever, I get it. But what is the tier right now, top 4, top 5 teams in the conference heading into the season?
I think Georgia and Texas are in a league of their own right now in the first tier.
Yeah.
And then tier 2, I would actually have Alabama and LSU. I think they're kind of in their own tier.
I do too.
And then the tier 3 is about eight or 9 teams. You know, it's a jumbled mess. I can't.
Diego Pavia, baby.
I mean, you're talking Oklahoma, A&M,
Yeah.
Ole Miss, maybe Tennessee, but Florida, South Carolina. I mean, all those teams, maybe even Missouri if they hit on their quarterback. But
Yep.
Those are kind of the teams I'm looking at, and you could mix and match those in any order. And I couldn't disagree with anyone after it's. I think those first 4 though are in a clear tier of their own.
Hey, can Lenore, just follow up to that? Can Lenore Sellers do enough? I watched that kid. I was at practice 2 years ago with Shane Beamer, And I remember it vividly. I was standing on the field, and Lenoris was in his first spring at South Carolina, and he was taking third string reps. And Shane Beamer walks up to me and says, "That kid's going to be special. Just watch." And I was like, okay. And this is a time where Spencer Rattler was there and whatnot. Can Lenore Sellers be a quarterback for South Carolina that gets them to 8 wins this year? 9 wins?
Yeah, I think so. But that's probably the ceiling, because we've seen, he's a very different player than Jane Daniels, but Jane Daniels was phenomenal his final year at LSU.
I agree.
Won the Heisman, and they still could only get to 9. Now, that was mostly because their defense was a train wreck, and I don't think South Carolina's defense will be a train wreck, but I also don't think Lenore Sellers has got Neighbors and Brian Thomas and Mason Taylor and on and on, and Will Campbell and Avery Jones. You know what I mean? So I think that's kind of what we're looking at. I think he can steal a game or two for you, but I just don't think South Carolina, given all they've lost to the NFL in this last draft, I don't think they are a true playoff caliber team.
It makes sense. No, it makes sense. And maybe they can surprise some folks, and who knows? Shit can happen. We've seen it before in college football. We saw it last year with certain teams. I'm curious to see what it looks like this year. Mike, man, this is 40 minutes have flown by, brother. And I look forward to continue doing again. I think we're going to hook up in the next couple of weeks. It should be a lot of fun. Maybe we'll have to send some pictures to cousin Shane of some margaritas or pina coladas being drank, but bring
the sunblock.
Bring the sunblock and get ready for a shitload of golf carts driving around with a bunch of old people that can't drive. I'm just shooting you straight. It's going to happen. And if you don't know what we're talking about, spring meetings are coming up around different conferences around the country, and could show up in Destin. So it will be interesting to see. But Mike, man, tell everybody where they could follow you, your fantastic daily show that you do with, by the way, an avid golfer now that I think could make a run toward a tour car. I don't know, but all I see on social media is cousin Shane playing golf now. I'm like, my man has living the dream at the moment.
Yeah, I don't know that he does anything in the day until other than play golf and get ready for the podcast.
Shit.
But cousin Shane, funniest guy in the media landscape, and he's down 50 pounds just this year from all the golfing, Trey. So we're trying to be more like you. I'm down 10, which is not nearly as good as 50.
Freaking grinded.
We're just trying to be more like you, Trey, over at the show That SEC Podcast. You search that. We're on every platform, and you can find me by searching for SEC Mike.
Best SEC podcast that there is out there in the country. I'm just telling you, they kill it every single day. I love it. It's college football. It's jokes. It's fun. You're taking questions. I enjoy it. Look forward to seeing you soon, Mike. Thanks for joining us. This has been another edition of the Trey Wallace Podcast, powered by Outkick.com. A lot of fun things in store over the next couple of weeks, so keep staying tuned. And again, follow all the work at Outkick.com. Follow SEC Mike and their podcast. Appreciate it, brother.
Thanks for having me. Take care, Trey.
Thank you.